We'll do one more. Oh, look, it's known miscreant Matt Lloyd, who I should say, by the way, Matt and Vipercheck have kept this ball rolling, the two of them, with me way AWOL. Matt and Foghorn have leadership meetings every week, and I'm there one out of every 6 or 7. I'm just too busy working on this. But for a known miscreant, he's really quite a fellow, and he and Foghorn have put an awful lot of energy into this, as has Simon Says and Merlin and Captain Jackson, all the rest of these guys. There's just a lot of people out there who have really gotten the message and done an awful lot of this work. I got the website, and I did all the graphics, aurorarepublic.space, if you like. And I got the thing looking like because to me it was very important, the graphic elements of this country, this republic. It may not sound right to people like us, but it had to be beautiful. It had to be beautiful. It had to be, the colors had to be, it's not a sky blue, it's not a cyan, it's not as deep as this. It's its own kind of almost like a Bermuda water blue, almost like a purple blue. And the lettering is very low and very wide, but very soft, and all of their departments have the same fundamental logo. It's the Aurora Starburst, and then there's something in front for, Department of Defense and different things for the Office of the President, all the rest of it. I just loved doing it, and it took me months. It had to be attractive. And in order for people to be willing to fight for something and die for something, you not only have to give them you got to do the carrot and the stick, right? You give them the carrot, you can live like a human being. By the way, a major point of all this, and Boyd is the guy who points this out, because the relationship between Boyd and McCullough is very simple. McCullough, Sledge, is Jiminy Cricket, and his job is to protect John Boyd from himself. Because Boyd's a poet, and Boyd's emotionally up and down, and Boyd gets into all kinds of trouble, and Boyd doesn't have the good sense to shut up when he should shut up. And Boyd is the warrior poet. That's what Boyd is. That's what Boyd was. He's a scholar warrior poet. That's him. And Sledge's job is to make sure that nothing happens to him, not only because he's his best friend, but because he knows he's important, that he means something. He's going to be important, despite the fact that it looks like his career is already over. So it's Boyd who basically looks around and says, and if you look at any movie, certainly if you look at this computer game or any other computer game, Boyd is the kind of guy who walks into a room and says, we've been in space for 1,000 years now. You think by now we would have figured out how to hang a picture on a wall? I don't find that to be technologically overwhelming. And my favorite thing, this is going to be a running joke. I'm not going to overplay it, but I'm going to use it a lot. The future, the dark Blade Runner future, Aliens future, that dark kind of dystopian future is very dark. And certainly the game indoors is very dark. And it's a very effective thing. People in darkness, you can't see what's coming. So it gives you a lot of opportunities for suspense and good storytelling. But it's dark, very dark. And nobody ever comments on it. And I want him to walk into one of these rooms, and it looks like any other science fiction room anywhere else ever, and have him say something like, "Can we get some lights on in here, please? Can we please turn on some lights? We have fusion power. Can we turn some lights on? Would that be all right?" And this kind of common sense kind of thing makes him quirky and makes him kind of square, but also makes him interesting. Interesting. It's the conflicts, it's the weaknesses, it's the blemishes, and I'll get to your question there, Matt, that make a character interesting in terms of the writing. And one of the things that I've discovered in the year that I've been working on this is that there's been an enormous leap in the quality of these figures in terms of looking real. And I can see this model was made before and this one was made after. It's crystal clear. It's a level a level of believability. And what that level of believability has been is not a better renderer or better skin shading. It's just that now they make these characters, they make them with blemishes. They make them with real skin. And everybody looked too perfect before. But once you see a couple of moles or freckles or just a scar or something, you just believe it. The one thing I did with these characters, when you buy a character and it looks like a certain thing and I like the general look, it's a high quality model, it's a believable model, I'll take it and then I'll make it my own. I'll start playing around with cheekbones and eyes and all the rest of it. But the one thing that I do all the time, unless I'm dealing with one of these dancers, is I can't describe it to you. You just have to see it. But these models have sliders that control things like size of your nose, ear position, everything imaginable. Some of them have 15 sliders just for the corners of your mouth. And the one thing I always do with these characters is there are two sliders, one for left face asymmetry and one for right face asymmetry. And I send one way and one the other way, and you get this perfectly symmetrical face, and it just starts to shift a little bit. This eye on me is considerably lower than this eye, which is why this is my good side, and this is the side I always have to present if I can. And this side I don't like nearly as much. That's why people have a good side. If you're filled with vanity like I am, obsessed with trivia, people who are on camera and who do this for a living have a good side, and my wife's particular skill is she knows how to find the good side of people who don't know what their good side is. I say this because the effect it has on the character is subconscious, but looking at a computer-rendered character with an asymmetrical face is, on some level, massively more convincing than looking at a perfectly symmetrical face. And Matt, I'll get to you. This is the problem with computer animation, and one of the reasons why it looks so bad, and this is certainly the hardest thing that I'm trying to overcome. And the problem with computers is that everything is too perfect. If I set the camera here on frame 0 and I set the camera down the hall on frame 200, it's going to take that distance over the 10 seconds that I've given it and divide it up into 200 equal pieces, and it's going to do them at a mathematical level of precision. There's not going to be any dolly bumps. There's not going to be any camera bumps. There's not going to be nothing. It's just perfect. It's all perfect. And you have to degrade this stuff in order to make it real. And if you want to really look at what this is several years old now, but I think certainly the first place I remember, I'm not saying the first people to do it, but the first place I remember going, wow, was when they redid Battlestar Galactica. What was it, 2005, 6, somewhere in there, 7? And what they did in Battlestar Galactica was brilliant. They had computer-generated battles, but they would film them like they were handheld, and they do a crash zoom, the kind of zoom you would make if you had a real camera, and it's like, and then something happened, zoom, and that crash zoom and that sense of motion utterly convinces you that this is something real that's being photographed by a person on the scene. So these little things are fascinating to me. I just can't get enough of them. So last question, and then we'll call it a night.